Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, we are going to talk about home price forecast for 2025. We have an article and a bunch of data, and then we have like estimates from 8 or 9 different firms that estimate home prices. Before that, though, I appeared on the Christian Peter podcast. Okay, it's not like being on Lex Friedman's podcast. It's not. But anyways, I was on it. I'll put a link in the description if you want to go watch that after you watch this. And it was kind of fun. Christian is somebody and I have known for a long time. The year we were number 1 in the nation, he was number 1 in San Diego. And then I think he was number 8 in the U.S. And he did the same thing we did. He was just selling bank-owned homes, which is how we met him. And then we collaborated on a couple startups a long time ago. All right, home prices. This is the article. U.S. house prices are forecast to rise more than 4% next year. This is from Goldman Sachs. You can see it's a relatively new article from September 11, 2024. Juana, before I show them all the numbers, what are some general forces why are they saying this? Like, what are they looking at? Because you got crash bros who every year predict the next housing crash, and then you have actually what's happening in the market. So let's forget the crash bros. Let's talk about what are some things, general forces happening in the market that has them all thinking this.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, inflation. It hasn't gone away. It continues. So housing follows inflation, generally speaking. So when we have inflation, home prices also go up. Things like materials, labor, all those things force home prices up because of inflation. The next thing that we have is the thing that we've kind of been beating to death for the last few years is supply, right? We have an insufficient supply. So when you counter supply and demand, we have more demand, we have less supply. So that also pushes prices up. So those are the two quick ones. This is kind of contemporary in the sense that we've just seen the hurricane that just devastated a good portion of the eastern seaboard and the Gulf area. All those homes have been destroyed. And we talk about homes being destroyed every year, right? And you've just seen a prime example of lots of homes being destroyed. Now, we're not saying that this happens with a huge storm every year, but we're saying that cumulatively each year, we have a couple 100,000 homes that are destroyed. Clearly, this time around, we probably had that many destroyed just in this storm.
Yeah, on a good year, with a year where there's a lot of homes destroyed, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc. It's 250,000. So when you see, there were 700,000 building permits. That's not just new home builders building new homes, but subdivisions in the suburbs. That includes new home. They just pull all the housing data. They pull all the new permits. That includes some guy who just says, "Hey, I need my house rebuilt," and his local guy goes to the county and gets a permit. Pulls, "Hey, I'm building a new house." That's how they get those numbers. It's not just KB Homes and everybody else. KB Homes doesn't build that many homes, and they're the largest in the nation. Okay, so here we're going to start by showing the different estimates. This is the U.S. home price forecast for 2025. This is a chart that was made by Resi Club. Basically, what they did is they took all the forecasts that throughout different parts of the year from all these companies, and we'll just kind of power through them here. Goldman Sachs, 4.4, Wells Fargo, 4.3. They were most optimistic. MBA, Mortgage Bankers Association, 3.3. Morgan Stanley, 3. Zelman Associates, 2.3. Fannie and Freddie are less optimistic, 1.5 and 0.5. Moody's, 0.3%. They, I don't know that there were any except for Crash Bros, that were predicting down. Now, this is median for the whole country. Juana, does this mean their home is going to go up by 4% next year?
No. Short answer, no. So remember, this is just across the whole country. So it might be that in your local market, there's a broad range even there. Like, so for example, let's take Las Vegas, one of my favorite places.
Oh, yeah.
So Las Vegas, you might see anything from -2% to plus 28% when you're looking at different zip codes throughout the valley, right? And that's all at the same time. So real estate is really hyper-local, and we've talked about this before. So you're going to see a wide range of appreciation or not appreciation, depending on where you are, and even depending on where you are in your own community. So it might be that homes maybe on the lake sell better than homes that are a couple blocks from the lake, right? And so you will see that. This just kind of covers the nation as a whole. I personally think that we're probably going to see more appreciation than that, and I'm very very rarely more bullish than these guys, but I think we'll see more appreciation than that simply because we just don't have the supply. The demand is ever increasing, and particularly with interest rates tempering, you'll have even more people interested in purchasing a home.
Here is the median day on market by metro area. We're showing you this chart for a couple reasons. First of all, this data is from June, so it's not too old. This was what was happening in June. June's probably a good average. It's starting to slow down from the hot spring. It's not as hot as it was in the spring. It's not as it's a little cooler now. We're at the point of the year where we're at about the lowest point in the housing market. Mm-hmm. The best time to buy was like last week. So if you didn't buy last week, now it's just getting worse every day. Every week, all the way to the spring, it's going to get harder. So what's interesting about this chart that I wanted to point out, first of all, if you look at the climate change charts that they show, this is sort of they use red for temperatures. 85 degrees, and they'll show like bright red, like, oh my gosh, 85 degrees, it's the hot. They do it to prove a point. They use color to make something look really bad. So what they did on here is you see the reds on this map. A lot of South Florida is in the red, and as well as parts of the Gulf Coast. But when you go up to the thing up there, it says 80, and that's number of days. So if you see red or orange, that's like 50 to 80. And if you see blue, that's like 20 to 50. And yellow is around 50 days on the market. 80 days median on the market. If you put your house on the market and you don't get an offer within a week, you obviously have to like cut the price in half, right?
So it's interesting because I had somebody send me a message saying, hey, I've had my house on the market for 2 weeks and I haven't sold it. And I try to be respectful and not laugh.
Right.
Look, first of all, that's very reasonable that your house hasn't sold. Okay, it's not unreasonable. Be patient. And I actually looked at this person's house, and it was priced reasonably. The marketing was reasonable. The pictures were reasonable. The house was very nice. So it will sell. It just didn't sell in 2 weeks. So look, for the most part, homes tend to sell in a normal market. The average home, or the median home, sells in about 3 months. So 80 days is not unreasonable. Because remember, a normal absorption time is 6 months. So it makes sense that in about 3 months, you'll have that'll be the median for absorption. Homes will generally sell depending on what's happening in the market, depending and where you live. I mean, keep that in mind. If you live in a place like Las Vegas and your home is on the market in the month of August, it's really hot and people don't really want to go out house shopping very much. So maybe your home will take a little bit longer to sell. If you live in the Northeast and it's January, it's kind of cold. People aren't quite ready to venture out in the cold to look for a home. So it depends on where you live. And I'm just using weather as a really clear representative of what might keep people away. But there are other things that cause people to not necessarily go out and buy right this very moment.
Hurricane.
A hurricane.
You don't want to go shopping in a hurricane.
Right. So, I'm willing to bet that, for the last couple of weeks, that whole part of the country didn't see a whole lot of activity as far as people looking for a home. I think there were people looking for supplies and people looking to evacuate. People had other priorities at that point, right?
Right.
So it just really depends on what's happening. And that's not to say that homes weren't selling like hotcakes, in other parts of the country, because I'm sure that they were. So it just really depends.
Okay, so something else that's on this chart I want you to sort of take away. Those red areas are high. They're highest in the country, but they're not historically super high. And the other thing is they don't take into account, this is just MLS data. So something else, the phenomenon that can happen in some of these markets is if you have a lot of new homes being built, people may be going and buying the new homes and not as many in the resale market. Maybe the new homes in those markets might be at a lower price point. So people may say, hey, let's just go buy a new house. And disregard the higher price ones now or whatever. It'll be interesting to see how this changes. Hopefully we can get this chart again in the spring, something that looks like this, and do a comparison. But anything that's blue on this chart, I would call a hot market. It's a pretty hot market. Look, if stuff is selling in 20 or 30 days on average, we're at 24 days or 28 days. We're under 30 days in Vegas here. And it's represented on the blue circle there. That's still relatively fast. Stuff is selling here pretty good. The whole West Coast, pretty much. There's not a lot of red on the West Coast. There's the two red dots in Colorado. Those are those luxury areas of Vail and Breckenridge, maybe. And then most of the Northeast and the Midwest are all blue. And then it's just parts of the South and the Gulf Coast that. And remember, some of the prices up in some of these markets are up 80%. Mm-hmm. So, and that's just over a couple years. So it may be that prices do need to come down a little bit. But, the idea that home prices will, quote unquote, crash because a house that's on the market 80 days is sort of ridiculous. But the other thing, too, is remember, if you count up all these dots, it's going to be like 320 or something. These are the individual markets that are all tracked. And so it would not be surprising to see 5 or 6 of these have negative price. We did one video not long ago, maybe it was last year, where Zillow or Zumper or somebody tracked the 400 rental markets. And in 399 of them, rents were up. And the only one they weren't up year over year was Vegas. And it was literally down 0.1%, which could be, so you're saying, rent prices had been up in Vegas like 15, 20% in the last 2 years, which is pretty unheard of. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward into the spring. Interest rates are kind of bouncing around. 2 weeks ago, you could get a 30-year fix for like 6.1%. You could get a VA loan for 5.1 and there were some under 5% loans. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 6 months. One, being sort of in the market all the time and looking at stuff. What's in the high end, you're looking at the high end, of course. What do you see is the trend? Is this a normal fall for real estate, or is it really bad out there? Let's just talk about Vegas.
So I think it's been a good market in Vegas this year. We've done very well with it. We're selling homes. People want to move to Vegas. The thing that I always remind people is, if you have a home in Vegas, is that the right home, and is it where you want to be? Are you ready to find the perfect home? And if you don't have a home in Vegas, why don't you? Vegas is definitely the place to be. So we definitely have a lot of people moving to Vegas. We have a lot of people adjusting as far as finding the right home. So maybe they came here during the pandemic, mm-hmm. and they just bought something just to get in, and now they're ready to find the right home as opposed to just a home. So we do see a lot of transactions. That's absolutely happening. I think what's interesting is we are hearing people talk about the election, both on the seller side and on the buy side. And my position on that is, whether your person wins or loses, there will be the other side who will be up in arms. And, we'll have 30 days, 45 days of a lot of teeth gnashing and that sort of thing. And then life will get back to normal for all of us, because the reality is these are not things we can control. We each have one vote, we cast our vote, we move on, because life goes on for all of us. I would be interested to know if you want to leave us a comment. I don't want to know who you're backing. I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in is, how do you think that the impending election is impacting seller choices, buyer choices? What do you foresee between now and the end of the year as far as real estate, regardless of who wins? Again, I'm not interested in who wins. Just kind of the sense that you're getting out there, because obviously there are a lot more of you guys than the number of people that we talk to. So I think it'd be interesting to kind of crowdsource this a little more broadly outside of our sphere and outside of our own market, see what people think.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. So, but anyway, like I said, so I don't know, 4%, 3%, 2%, nobody knows, and that's national numbers. market specific. If you look at a lot of these markets, there'll be a lot of markets where home prices keep going up because people are moving there, and there'll be a lot of prices that may be overbuilt or overbought, where home prices might even go down, and who knows. But definitely, this is a good time of year to buy. Generally.
I mean, overall, I think that real estate's going to appreciate a really good clip in the next 16, 18 months, particularly with interest rates at the very least not continuing to go up. They will go down most likely. And I think that sort of stability and that sort of hope that interest rates go down is good for both buyers and sellers, because they see a more comfortable and more secure future as far as loans are concerned. Those of you that are following the interest rates, even though the Fed reduced rates, some of you have seen interest rates tick up in the last week or so. And we've talked about that all of that was already baked into the rates before, and that you might see interest rates actually go up rather than down a little bit. They are going to be volatile for a while because the Fed's trying to kind of find its footing and the market's trying to find its footing. So the right time for you to buy or sell is when it meets your personal situation. Don't worry about the market. The market will take care of itself. And just make a decision that's the right one for you and your family. And
also, August was a record month for cash purchases in the U.S. It was crazy. Remember, there's $10 trillion of money, of cash, that all of you have in checking accounts and money markets and things like that have not yet come into the market. They haven't gone to the stock market. They haven't gone to buy real estate. That money's just kind of sitting out there. And so interest rates, that's why home prices have gone up with interest rates going up, because interest rates don't really affect home prices that much. It's supply and demand. Like in Vegas, we have 400,000 houses available for purchase just in Las Vegas, and you only have 3,000 on the market, which is historically a super low number. We should have twice that right now, but we don't. And then what we're going to end up with in the spring is we're going to be back to 1,500, which is not a lot of houses for the whole city.
Yeah. Okay, so interesting stuff. Please remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, leave us your real estate related comments. And if you want to leave us a video suggestion, you're welcome to do that too. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.